What's up? It's your boy Carcino here. Like I said, this week we're going to be bringing the heat. And let's talk about the truth behind Michael Jordan's father's death. And everybody wants to tie this thing to the Illuminati. It was a big government conspiracy. Let's go, as we always do, to the beginning. Now, when Michael Jordan first came into the league, he was like the golden spear to take the mantle from Dr. J and Julius Erving, Magic Johnson, and then Michael Jordan was going to take the baton and go to the next level. They were happy to share that with the rest of the world. Like, let's give it to Michael because he's the most deserving of it to be the ambassador of the sport. Now, Michael Jordan took it and ran with it. And he had a very close relationship to his father. But noticeably, Michael Jordan was making business moves outside of the sport of basketball. Some that was unprecedented by any player in the game. And because of his manager, very aggressive manager, David Falk, and his athletes that he represented, they felt Falk was gaining more power because he had all of the high-profile athletes of the NBA, which had him at a position where he was dictating terms on how things should be ran within the NBA. So when David Falk threatened to just basically have his players like basically put on their own Olympics and cut out the Adidas or Reebok, whoever was the sponsor of the Olympics that year, because Nike wasn't the sponsor, and he threatened to just put his players on the cover of the magazine who all had deals with Nike, and put his own Olympic rings out and put his own shirts out with Nike. This was becoming a problem. So they had to attack it at his head. Michael Jordan had just closed McDonald's. He had a Gatorade deal coming from his Coca-Cola deal. More lucrative money than any player had ever received outside of the sport of basketball. So now you're looking at a situation where things are spiraling in Jordan's way, and commercially he's doing a video with Michael Jackson. He's the biggest thing in sports. And then you're entering the 93 season. And as the years start winding down, media, press, all second half of the season, it's all about what can we dig up on Michael Jordan. They heard about things in the book, like is he fighting people in practice, and trying to get stories out of people about Michael. They're inquiring old business associates about how's Michael outside of the court to try to dig up things. They're going back to his North Carolina days. And, Michael has people that work for him, and they'll call Michael and be like, Michael, why are they asking me these things that are like 15 years old? Or who's this guy that Michael golfed with, and did he bet? Or like what is the big deal here? Like, players bet on golf all the time. This is like what we do. Like, what is this being such a big deal about? And they trying to go behind Michael's back and start something. So during the playoffs, he's like, I really don't want to do an interview with you guys because, you guys are going behind my back trying to dig up things on me. And when Michael said that in the interview during the Knicks series, and he wasn't his normal jolly self when they were playing. So his father saw that the pressure was getting to him. His father said, you know what? Let's go to Atlantic City. Let's just go gambling. Just have some fun. So Michael stayed out. They gambled. They had a great time. And next thing you know was Michael was out all night gambling. Him and his father. His dad was the one to anchor there. Like, no, I took him there. He needed a break. I did. So his dad took center stage to take the heat for Michael. It's like, he's my son. He needed me, and I came there, and I was there for him. See, his dad is old school. Workaholic. Blue collar. Work for everything he got. But he's his own man. Like, he's in his own world. He want to do things his way. And he couldn't play the role that they assigned to him, because they had the Michael Jordan Foundation, and his mom had became the public figure of being on television, doing interviews. So she ended up running the foundation, but the father and her had been estranged for years. So they had to keep the persona up for Michael's image. So, James Jordan agreed, like, I won't be bringing no hoes around. Or this and that, I'll be discreet about it. But he didn't stay there with her, he lived wherever he wanted to go, he just pick up and go. He's been that way, It's not unusual. So it wasn't unusual for him to disappear for days, and not come back home or just be on the road. So they never divorced for the sake of, Michael and his career. They didn't want him to suffer through that. So he was going down to, I think it was North Carolina, to a funeral. Michael and them had just won their third NBA championship. Michael had talked about retiring. His father told him that he should retire and try baseball. So he's like, since he done did everything in basketball there is to do, I would like to see him try to go for baseball and see what he could do over there. So after the season, here comes questions into Michael Jordan's life that they were digging up. All the stuff they was investigating about Michael Gator, the drug dealing golfer. Michael Jordan owes him $75,000, owes him $100,000. Michael's in debt with a drug dealer. It was ridiculous, but it was like, we got some dirt on Michael Jordan. Let's throw it out here. And it's like throwing mud against the wall. Then as his father goes to this funeral, he's murdered. First he was missing, then it turned into a murder investigation. A week before his birthday, his 57th birthday, he was on the side of the road resting, as the report says, and two youth shot him, robbed him, and threw his body in the swamp. Now, here's what was going on that they didn't want to tell you. All you Illuminati people who gonna be on here talking about Illuminati this and Illuminati that. Here's what happened. Michael Jordan, father, was down there. And this is from a lot of people that's in the town. And this is my interpretation. So this is allegedly what happened. Michael Jordan's father, who they tried to tie to his business losing money and use that as an excuse, him being depressed, like he faked his own death. That's a lie. I mean, the business was about to shut down. It was close to it. It was losing money. James Jordan's t-shirts was losing a lot of money at the time. Wasn't doing that well, so yes, it was at the point where it looked like it was about to shut down. Then you had you got a situation in which you have hold on one second, I'm sorry. Somebody just texted me. Sorry about that. You have a situation in which Michael Jordan's father is in a Lexus driving down the road, and through his phone records, allegedly, he called someone on that phone who's a known drug dealer, like selling coke and all this stuff, who happens to be the son of the Cook County Sheriff Hubert Stone, the guy who's the lead investigator into the murder. Now, my thing was this: how did that not be admitted in the courtroom? Why was that changed? And they were so quick to get the confessions to bring these guys in, because this became a very major crime when it was Michael Jordan. And then the news was like, well, we just ran this story about the drug dealer. Maybe Michael Jordan owed them money and unfairly tried to blame his death on his son, which is the biggest disrespect I've ever seen any athlete have to go through. They want to blame your gambling on your father's death. Because from what I heard about the story and what really happened, it's entirely two different things. So the way the story went down on paper, that's, that they got to this date, is that the guy Green, who changed his name once he got to prison, he's the guy that done this shooting. He said, yo, man, I think we just killed Michael Jordan's father. And they both went and did the crime together. And then they decided to dump the body near, they was going to put it in a sewage place, but then they changed their mind and dumped it in a swamp. And it was a joint effort. But that's not true. Green guy didn't show up until after Michael Jordan's father was killed. He was called to help get rid of the body. So he was accessory after the fact. Help him get rid of the body. Let's dump this stuff and do all this and that. So he's guilty on that end. Now, Demery, he was the one that met with Michael Jordan's father. And from what everybody is telling me down there, and from people there, it was a drug transaction that went wrong. And he shot Michael Jordan's father. Now, did he shoot Michael Jordan's father and then use his phone to call his drug dealer friend? That could have happened. But what a coincidence that the guy who's in head of the murder investigation, his illegitimate son, who is a known drug dealer in the vicinity, phone number is on Michael Jordan's father's phone. And this is not even brought up or allowed to be used in the trial. You see, the state of North Carolina had a lot of pressure put on them by a lot of people. And the fact that when Demery did this crime, he knew he was guilty, but he wanted to cut a deal. So he went in and cut a deal and easily dumped on the guy who wasn't there to try to reduce his sentence, and threw Green under the bus, who came to help him. That's what I believe happened 100%. All of this sleeping on the side of the road, they just pulled up to go rob a man they never met. I just don't buy it. He was tired, he wanted to rest, so he put on the side of the road. Then they pulled up, they just saw a man sleeping and decided we was going to rob him. That's a little far-fetched when you're looking at the phone records and seeing that phone calls was made to this guy who you know in the town is a known drug dealer. He's known. Why is his number in the phone? But anyway, after this fact, these kids went and took Michael Jordan's father's championship ring. They took pictures with it. They did a lot of disrespectful things to Michael Jordan's father's, like, that's somebody's father. But you could tell that this guy Demery, who had history of violence and everything else before, all of a sudden, that was it. It was nothing to it. Demery had violent crimes before, so for him, it was no big deal to go ahead and, to do this type of heinous crimes because he had a violent past. But the egregious thing happened is that Michael Jordan's not even allowed to grieve because the press want to ask him, and every day there's pictures of Michael Jordan in the newspaper with the drug dealer, golfer, according to their words, and they're digging up all this dirt and stories on him, and Michael Jordan is just sick of it. He's sick because they're not even treating him as a man who just lost his father. They're trying to tie what he doing on a golf course to what happened with his father. Man, Michael Jordan owned all the old man. He was gambling in the golf game. He owed them drug dealers money. They was gonna kill his daddy. Man, it was the craziest thing I've ever heard. Michael Jordan, this is what people didn't understand. They don't know how endorsements work. They don't know how the NBA work, salary-wise. Michael Jordan was making about $3 million a year. $3.2 million from the NBA. Okay, let's say if he was gambling hundreds of thousands of dollars, that could probably hurt him a little bit. But this is not counting his money from Nike. He had over 16 to 20 million dollars he was bringing in a year just from Nike, McDonald's, and Gatorade in 1993. Michael Jordan was nowhere near broke. He was nowhere near in any financial trouble whatsoever. Michael Jordan, if he had to get the guy money, see, people don't understand, they probably never even been on a golf course before. People bet on golf all the time. They bet on a shot, they bet on a hold. Gambling happens there 24/7. People go there and bet like the racetrack. Business deals are done on the golf course. And then while all of this is taking place on the golf course, all of these events are taking its course and people are gambling. Do you know they are paid to be at these events? You think Michael Jordan just showed up to play golf? People pay him $100,000, $150,000 just to show up, because people be like, "Oh, Michael Jordan's there." He get paid for showing up at events. So if he's betting, it's basically the money he got just to come out there to play. So if Michael Jordan gambled $1 million, you think that was enough money? You think Michael Jordan would gamble to the point where he was down tens of millions of dollars? He would be an idiot. And Michael Jordan is not that. He will never gamble to that much of an extent. Then they tried to see that Michael Jordan bet illegally on games, trying to time the Pete Rose. It was the most disrespect I've ever seen an athlete get after their father just died in a violent manner in the way that it happened. Terrible. And he walked away from the game of basketball like, I'm done. Because the NBA didn't put a stop to it. They basically was just letting it go on. But he was mentally drained from all the stress that they were putting on him unnecessarily. Because Michael was used to getting positive press his entire basketball career. He never really had any negative press except for they couldn't get over the hump in Detroit. And mostly that was blamed on Scottie Pippen or anybody else. He never had to deal with any negative press. Michael was beloved in the press until that year when they wanted to get his agent and put him in line. So they thought attacking Michael Jordan was the best way to get David Falk to back off. And then the unfortunate thing with his father wasn't a mob hit. It wasn't an Illuminati. It wasn't a blood sacrifice. Wasn't none of this crazy garbage y'all put into y'all brains. So now y'all know the truth about all this stuff, and I'm gonna cut this one short so we can leave it right here. But this is what happened back then. That's why when Michael came back, he was like, "Look, I'm getting paid $50 million a season," and they settled on like 30-something million, 35 million, because Michael had to pay his taxes. So it was 50 million, but after the taxes and everything else, it came out to like 30 million and 33 million a season. Michael Jordan was paid for coming back to the NBA. And that's why he stuck him so hard, and he deserved to stick him. And the league needed him back at the time, because the league was was in an era where things were, the young players hadn't developed yet. All the older players were starting to like phase out and get out of the league. And it's like, man, we have no new face really to develop yet. We're trying to give the mantle to Grant Hill. You know, we need Grant Hill to come up and lead and be the guy to lead us to the new era. But right now, it's just too much. It's too much young talent in the league. You know, so we need to develop them. And when Michael came back, it was a host of all these new faces: Chris Webbers, Penny Hardaways, the Shaq, and you know, all these other players. Garnett is starting to come into his own. Kevin Garnett, all these young players are starting to, you know, take the place and come in. But Grant Hill was the one they chose to be the face of the NBA when Michael left. But that's for a whole nother story. I'm out.